On the line with us right now is legendary Detroit area broadcaster. You hear him every day in the Mitch Albom Show on WJR. Let's say hello to Kevin O'Neill. Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
Oh, fine, Dave. So thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's great to have you here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get all your video set up. But, Kevin, I mean, I am looking right now, and our audience is seeing some of these pictures that you would love. I'll send you copies of them. It's a blast in the past of your radio career and all the different radio stations you've worked at. And you look much younger.
Well, most of those pictures were taken with flash bulbs, I'll have you know, Dave.
Well, it's really good. Hey, it's good to talk to you.
You too.
We do under sad circumstances. The passing of Gordon Lightfoot just a couple of days. He had a great life, 84 years strong.
Yes.
And, you know, for us, especially us here in the metropolitan Detroit area, you know, he had a huge impact because, you know, he's living right across the border in Canada, and we heard so much Canadian music because of CKLW and these rules that the Canadian radio stations had to play Canadian artists. But, you know, I think Gordon Lightfoot would have persevered through all that anyway, would have been a huge star, regardless of where he was from.
Well, Dave, I was so lucky I want to say probably about 20 years ago or so, I emceed his show at the Fox Theater, one of his many shows, and he was so appreciative of Detroit and of CKLW. He mentioned several times how his career just was this town and that radio station in particular really helped to shoot him into stardom. He was very appreciative, very humble, and as you said, that's correct. A certain percentage of music on the Canadian stations, even the border towns, had to be either Canadian written, performed, or produced, and the CanCon rules they called them. So artists like Gordon Lightfoot, Anne Murray, of course, got a lot of airplay on the stations near the border, like CKLW. So he was, again, very appreciative.
Well, and you know, I think of his biggest hits, Sundown, If You Could Read My Mind, Carefree Highway, Rainy Day People, but certainly to us here in Michigan, probably no bigger hit than The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, that came along in 1976, and I remember being at a meeting, a disc jockey meeting. I was working at WGAR radio in Cleveland at the time, and the program director said, we got a new record here, and this is a long song. As you'll recall, Dave, in those days, you didn't play a lot of long songs on AM radio, AM Top 40, but he said, I think this song really has impact, and I think we're going to play it, and we're not going to do an edit. We're going to play it all the way through. And the first time we heard it, we just sat there going, wow. I mean, this really hits home. So, yeah, that was a landmark in his career. I also remember the first time I ever saw Gordon Lightfoot, Dave. That was 1971. It was in South Bend, Indiana. And he was very new on the scene then, new for a lot of the American audience. But his album, Sit Down Young Stranger, had just come out. And on that album was the cut, If You Could Read My Mind. Well, that cut just took off nationally, and it was so strong that Reprise Records decided to rename that album If You Could Read My Mind. So if you see, and it was the same cover, same photograph, everything was the same except the title of the album. So if you see that album with the title Sit Down Young Stranger, it's a sort of a collector's item. There's not a lot of them around anymore, but that was really my introduction to Gordon Lightfoot. He was around, of course, before that, the 60s. There's old film clips of his being introduced on the Canadian equivalent to American Bandstand, which was hosted by Alex Trebek. And it shows Alex introducing this new singer, Gordy Lightfoot, called him Gordy. And again, that was the 60s. He got a lot of attention in 66, 67, a song called Early Morning Rain. It was a hit in Canada, not too much attention in the U.S. However, Elvis Presley loved that song. And if Elvis is a fan of your music, well, you're going to be getting a lot of attention here in the States, which he did. So Elvis performed that song, did it in concert a lot, and that helped Gordon Lightfoot's career also here in the U.S.
So when you were sitting in the radio station listening to songs, and you and the program directors would try to decide, hey, we're going to play this guy, or that one doesn't quite make it, what do you think might have really attracted program directors and audiences across the country to Gordon Lightfoot and his music?
Well, with the station I worked at, specifically, Dave, WGAR, we were top 40, but we leaned a little more to the easy listening side. So all of his music just fit our formats so well. We would add, as they say, out of the box. We'd add pretty much everything that he came out with, even his later hits. The Circle is Small, Daylight Katie, which weren't really major hits, but we played all of them. So yeah, on the adult contemporary type stations, he got a ton of airplay. But again, even on the top 40, the hardcore top 40s, your WLS, WCFL stations like that in Chicago, he got a lot of airplay just because the songs were just so good.
Well, you know, and really, he was what we would call a crossover artist, because you're right.
Yes.
He would play on the adult contemporary, or the easier, softer stations, but a lot of rock and roll radio stations too, especially in the later years would
sure.
play, you know, because he just had so much, you know, character. I think it was his tonal quality, and this is, I think, pretty high praise, his Bob Dylan-esque lyrics, you know, that were just so unique. There's just, when you heard a Gordon Lightfoot song on the radio, there was no question as to what you were listening to.
Well, Bob, it's funny you mentioned Bob Dylan, because Gordon Lightfoot was one of Bob Dylan's favorites. I mean, when Gordon Lightfoot was inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, I don't know if that's the actual name, but the inductee, well, Gordon Lightfoot was being inducted, and the person who introduced him was Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan said what a great honor it was to introduce one of his favorite songwriters. And he said, I can't think of any Gordon Lightfoot song I don't like. That's very high praise from Bob Dylan.
Well, no question about it. And the guy just, I mean, he had so much impact on us. Let's go back to the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. That was one of those songs, kind of like, I think, of Cats in the Cradle, kind of out of that era, and other songs. Yes. It was one of those story songs, right, where you would just get so captivated by it. And the way he told the story of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, I thought was just very unique and very interesting, with the words and the way he told that very sad story in that song. And I wonder whether the Edmund Fitzgerald story would have been anywhere near as big without Gordon Lightfoot's song.
Yeah, I don't believe so, Dave. I mean, I think the song really helped the people's awareness of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Now, the song did take some criticism. I remember there were some people saying, "Oh, he's exploiting these sailors that die," and no, that was not the case at all. I mean, he donated money to their families. I mean, he really wanted to preserve the legacy of the Edmund Fitzgerald. He wasn't out just to make a buck by putting the song out. And as far as the production of the song, of course, the lyrics are phenomenal. They tell the story so well. But as you know, Dave, there's so much of what makes a hit song, a popular song, is the production element and that music. When that first note hits, it's like you can see the way, you can just feel the waves and the cold. The song gives you a chill in a number of ways. You just feel the cold of that November night. I mean, it's so well produced. It's just a fantastic record.
Yeah, all of his songs were, and more of his pop ballads were elegant and simplistic all at the same time, and that's always a big key for success. So I can't think of anyone I would have rather talked to on this day to tell the stories. You met him, you saw him in concert, you interacted with Gordon Lightfoot through his career and your radio career, and I appreciate you taking a moment. So.
Dave, such a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you about Gordon Lightfoot and just about music and radio. It's a real honor to be on with you.
Well, we could do this for hours. people can listen to you every day on WJR and the Mitch Album Show. Mitch, a good mutual friend. You guys have to be. It sounds like you're having a ball there every day.
We do, Dave. Thank you. Yeah, it's a wonderful show. It's on 5 till 7 on WJR AM 760, or you can listen to it online. And yeah, we cover everything. We do some sports. We do the news. We do some serious things. We do a number of song parodies. I write most of the song parodies and produce them with a guy named C.D. Henderson, who is the master mixer. So we have a lot of fun on the show, and it's I've always told Mitch, I said, this is the best 2 hours of my day. I really enjoy this. Yeah.
Well, you know, you bring that that bygone era of radio and all of the great musical memories that only the stories that only you know from your years being on the air in so many places up and down the dial, and you know, Kiss FM and all the other radio stations you've been on here in Metro Detroit, WOMC, and you know, and I've worked at a couple of them, and you know, every radio station seemed to go, hey, there's Kevin O'Neill. So
I've been very blessed. It's funny, Dave, because I have been let go from 7 jobs in my radio career. People, oh my God, 7! But I'm so blessed that I've been able to stay in the Detroit area. I grew up in Cleveland. I was working in Houston when I got the job here in Detroit at WDRQ in 1980, and I've been in the Detroit area since 1980. And I'm so grateful for that.
Bravo! Congratulations! And if you don't get fired, if you don't get fired 3, 4, 5, or 6 times in this business, you're nothing. You got to get fired in this business.
You got to do it. Yeah.
Kevin, we got to go. Thank you very much, Kevin O'Neill. Tune in to him on WJR, and thank you very much for being with us, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Dave. Let's do it again.